I was asked to tell you a little bit about myself and my story. As you heard, I am an actor and an activist. I like to call myself an activist. It's even on my business card, activist. What do those three words have in common? Actor, activist, activist. To act. What is to act? To do, yes, among other things. But the one I was looking for was to do. To act is to do. And I imagine that that's why I was asked to speak today at the final closing presentation. Because I think it is essential that we take what we learned this weekend and we put it into action. That today is the closing session, but it's just the beginning. We have so much work to do, and it is a gift that we were all able to be here and learn and meet so many wonderful, inspiring people, and I'm so grateful that I got to do that. And we need to take that gift and share it with others and inform as many people as we can the importance of media reform. So, when I first moved to Los Angeles, I found myself quite lost in a sprawling, big city. And I wanted to be part of my community. And I wasn't sure how, but I knew how to act and tell stories. And I knew that I wanted to work with at-risk, economically disadvantaged youth, many of whom were not getting any arts in their schools. Well, a bunch of my friends wanted to do the same thing. So we were a bunch of unemployed actors in LA, young, inexperienced, and unemployed. And if you know anything about Los Angeles and the film business, there's no group of people less powerful than a group of unemployed actors. So we knew we didn't have that kind of power, but what we had was a passion and a desire to do what we wanted to do and to use our time and our talents in our community. So we did. We went to youth centers and we went to a couple high schools and we put up signs and we created a program to work with teens on a mentoring theater program. And each year that we did the program, we would tackle a different societal issue, like racism, prejudice, and tolerance, drug and alcohol abuse, violence, all different kinds of things that were affecting all of our lives. This program started as just an idea, and this was in 1995, and we're still going. And the name is called Voices in Harmony, and the tagline, which I thought was appropriate, and one of the reasons I brought it up, is Voices in Harmony. Everyone has a story to tell. Listen. And a lot of people would say, isn't it wonderful you gave these youth a voice? And we always answer, we didn't give them a voice. They always had a voice. We just gave them a platform to share it. The other reason I bring this up is that we didn't have any money, we didn't have any power behind us, we didn't really have anything but our own passions. And we were able to do something and create something and make a difference in our community. And each and every one of us can do that. And we can do that around media reform. I know it does seem like a daunting task, but it's not. We can do this. You know, I'd like to tell this story very briefly because we also, of course, had no marketing budget, and we had no budget whatsoever for anything. We operated out of our apartments. And I bought a secondhand fax machine, because this was way back in 1995, because we were trying to get press coverage for our big show. And basically, we just faxed all day long and called all day long to the LA Times, to all the local papers, to everyone. And everyone's like, you're never going to get any media coverage. Well, we did. Finally, after maybe 100 phone calls, and I'm not kidding, we finally got someone who needed to have a story, was on a deadline, and said, okay, I'll come to your rehearsal. Stop calling me. So they came to our rehearsal, came with a photographer, took pictures, and he was so inspired by what he saw that he got the cover story of the Metro section of the LA Times. Zero budget. From that, Headline News called us and said, hey, we'd like to do a story on you, which ran, you know how sometimes they do that on a loop, over and over and over again. So our first show was basically sold out for every performance. And we were excited, not because we were sold out, but because the teens we were working with and their mentors who are actors got to share their stories with the community. And it was a wonderful opportunity for all of us. And I don't think I've ever felt more creatively represented, and I never stepped out on the stage. It was a wonderful experience. I also am very fortunate that I was on a television series for 7 years, and we got summer vacations. So I went and volunteered in different places during those summers, and one of the places that I went was Uganda, and I volunteered with International Medical Corps, working with malnourished children and their mothers in northern Uganda, where they'd have suffered from a rebel war for decades. I didn't know much about it before I went. And once I was there, I was stunned that I didn't know more about it, that these stories were not being shared with the public. The depth and the breadth of the problem and the suffering was unbelievable to me. And when I was leaving one of the camps, because we worked in internally displaced and refugee camps, a man came up to us and said, "Please don't let us die in this horrible place. Please tell the people in America what is happening to us here." Because he believed, as I believe, and as many of the people in Uganda believe that I met, people in America are good. When we see a wrong, we want to make it right. When we see someone suffering, we want to help. But in order for us to do that, we need to know about it. We need to hear the stories. We need the truth. And that's why I'm so grateful that Free Press is here and the other organizations are here to help share these stories and make sure that we are able to. The other reason I talk about this is that, I was committed to telling the people in America his story and others. So I had to think, what's the best way for me to do that? And I thought the best way would be for me to go back to northern Uganda, bring my Voices in Harmony team from LA, some of the actors that have been great volunteers, and do our program with teenagers in northern Uganda and make a documentary film about that program. So again, we were met with a lot of, wow, it's a war zone. You're a bunch of actors. What do you think you can do there? And I said, well, absolutely nothing if we stay home. If we go there and we do something, we got a chance at helping somebody. Plus, we'd had the experience in LA that it is pretty useful to share stories. And we did. We went to northern Uganda. We worked with two wonderful organizations who helped us on the ground, the International Rescue Committee and International Medical Corps. We worked with 14 miraculous teenagers who showed such bravery in sharing their stories through theater, sharing their humanity through theater. And then they shared that with their community. Over 1,000 people showed up. We built a stage in their internally displaced persons camp. And we filmed the entire thing and made a documentary which is called After Coney, Staging Hope. And through the film, through the play, they were able to share their stories with their community. And through the film, we are all able to share their stories with the world. Now, some of that footage was used as part of an advocacy campaign around the Lord's Resistance Army Disarmament Northern Uganda Recovery Act. There was no money behind this, no big corporations behind it. It was mostly a bunch of young people, young American students, who cared about young people in northern Uganda. So we lobbied Congress, we went to meetings, we wrote about it, we blogged about it. We set up meetings locally in our own communities with staffers. We got them to be allies. We brought our friends. We took pictures at these meetings. We brought students. We shared these stories in school newspapers, blogs, everywhere we could. Well, I'm happy to say that the Lord's Resistance Army Disarmament Northern Uganda Recovery Act passed unanimously with more bipartisan co-sponsors than any other piece of legislation in 2010. And I don't know if you remember 2010, but it was really hard to get anything done with bipartisan. And I say that to inspire all of us that the work that we're doing can be done. We may not have big money behind us, but we do have our passion. We do have our belief in what we're doing is right. And if our cause is just and we raise our voices together, we will not be denied. Now I just want to tell you very briefly how I came to Free Press. Because a childhood friend of mine, Carrie Cuthbert, decided to work for Free Press about 6 years ago. She sent out an email to her friends and family telling us about her new job and about Free Press. I was excited not only for Carrie, but to learn that an organization like Free Press exists to fight for media reform, which we all know is essential to building a better democracy. I also realize media reform and democracy reform affects all of the issues I care about. My work on poverty, economic inequality, social justice, human rights, the environment, climate change, gun violence prevention, voter suppression, marriage equality, civil rights for all Americans, taking care of our veterans, and making sure that every child in America has access to not just a good, but a great education. Healthcare reform. And the last one is I never, ever want to see my country be misled into a war. We are here because reforming our media, we can have the platform to tell the truth to the American people. The full, complete, factually accurate, complicated, messy, sometimes hard to look at, powerful truth. The truth that reflects all of our voices, not just the voices of a handful of billionaires and corporations, and to make sure that that truth reaches every single one of us, and that that truth is heard loudly and clearly. For our democracy to thrive, we the people need to be armed with the truth, so that we can hold our government accountable and our elected officials accountable for the actions they are taking on our behalf, and require that they enact policies that protect the public interest, that protect all of us. We need to get big money out of our media, out of our politics, out of our government. It is the only way we will have a government that is truly by the people, for the people, of the people, by the people, and for the people. Oh, and by the way, I don't think corporations are people. We are the people, and we are the only ones who can fix this. Today isn't the ending, it's just the beginning. It is a daunting task, but we can do it. I believe that it is up to us to set up these meetings with our congresspeople, with their staffers, to write into the corporations. We're their customers. They want to hear from us. Let's make sure they hear us loud and proud what we want them to do and what we don't want them to do. We can make change, and we are the only ones who are going to do it. We need to let our elected officials know that we have the power to fire them, and we're not afraid to exercise that power. We also have the power to keep them in office, and we will have their back if they support our message and what's important to us, and they will need our support, because once they sign on to work with us, some of their corporate money and their donations are going to dry up. They need to know that we have their back. And I feel that that is just as important as letting them know that we won't vote for them, but that we will, and that we will turn other people out to vote for them. If they get our back, we'll get theirs. You know, there are a lot of ways to stay engaged. And I think the best one and the easiest one is to go to freepress.net. Go there, sign up, keep engaged. Let's keep this in our feet. And go visit your members of Congress. And there's a card that everyone has, I think, on your seat or under your seat, where you can sign up for district visits in your home area. Please fill it out and turn it in before you leave today. This is so essential. It works. And donate to Free Press. There are 500 lobbyists working for the big companies for every single person fighting for the public interest. We need to amplify the public voice in Congress and places like the FCC. We can't outnumber them, but we can sure outwork them. So sign up. And I'm sure most of you know this, but the Free Press, they don't take a cent from big business or government or political parties. And that's how they stay free. Now, my youngest brother is a football coach, and he's a very inspiring guy. And before I do anything that's important to me, generally I call him or I hear his voice in my head. And he always asks me the same things. He says, well, Mel, is it important to you? And I say, yes. Do you believe in it? And I say, yes. He goes, well then, get after it. So I'm going to put it to all of us. Is it important to you? Yes. Do you believe in it? Yes. Well then, get after it.